let's look at a sample DBQ question and run through one sample body paragraph as well. This is the last thing we'll do. Again, if you've got all the information you need, you don't have to keep going, but this might be helpful to you as you move forward. The prompt here: analyze the positive and negative effects of imperialism for Britain, the colonizer, and India, the colony. The important part of this prompt: positive and negative effects of imperialism. And then Britain and India. We're going to look for positive for Britain, positive for India, negative for Britain, negative for India. You can imagine what your groups might be. So possible groups: you might want to have two groups, one about the positive effects, one about the negative effects. You might want to have effects for Britain. You might want to have effects for India. You're basically going to be looking through these documents and looking for positive and negative effects, and that's how you're going to be marking these documents up. So let's take a look. This DBQ has 7 documents. We're not actually going to read all of these documents because that would take us a tremendous amount of time. But we notice that document 1 is written by a British person, and it explains several benefits to both Britain and India. Document 2 is written by an Indian. It talks about moral and political benefits, economic and social drawbacks. We look at document 3, which is written by an Indian, talks about the benefits of education, peace, civilization, and government. Document 4 is written by a British historian. It talks about the technological and material benefits to India. Document 5 is a British perspective, moral and economic benefits for India. Document 6 is an Indian who tells us all about the negative for India, but only the positive for Britain. And then document 7, we recognize the author is Indian. It's Gandhi. And Gandhi is talking about how Britain controls everything and Indians have no power. So I would make little annotations. These might be my small words that I'd put in the margin. But this one's positive for Britain. This one shows positives for Britain, and this one really shows positives for Britain because they get to control everything. Then I want to look at my positives for India. Document 1 shows positives for India. This one shows some of the benefits. Document 3, Document 4, Document 5 all show positives for India. So this is a pretty big group right here too. Then negatives for India. We have Document 2, Document 6, and Document 7 all showing some of these negative aspects of imperialism. So if I was going to create groups, I may want to group them like this. The first group would be my blue group, which shows me all of the positives for India. Again, I didn't put all of the documents that show positive for India. Document 2 I left out because it also showed a negative. And then my second group, the red group, or whatever the color that is, pinkish group, would be negatives for India. And you can see I kind of just ignored here the British part. I could group them in a different way too. I might want to group them. These 3 documents all show me positives for Great Britain. These 4 documents all show me positives for India. And these 3 documents, as a third group, all show me positives and negatives for India, or at least negatives for India combined with either a positive for Britain or a positive for India. So I might want to call these different things. So let's just say that one of our groups, and we're going to create our thesis using these groups. Our groups are positive for Britain, positive for India, and negative for India. Those are our 3 groups. We would create an example thesis which might answer the question like this. While there were some social disadvantages for India while Britain was controlling them through imperialism, there were a great number of economic and political benefits for both India and Britain. Or you could say the opposite. While imperialism in India had economic benefits for both India and Britain, India paid a high price by having all political and economic control stripped away. So that organizes my essay one of 2 ways. Answering either one of those would get the point for thesis because it talks about the positive and negative effects. My other groupings might be positive effects and negative effects. In my example theses on this, imperialism in India resulted in definite benefits for both Britain and India, but India alone experienced severe drawbacks while being excluded by the British. So that talks about them and answers the question. Or you might take the opposite approach. While India suffered some negative effects of imperialism from the British, the advantages for both countries show a mostly positive impact. So let's quickly run through a sample paragraph. The body paragraphs, again, are using the groups, so our topic sentence is going to be something about the group. India experienced many political, economic, and social benefits from Britain during this time period as shown in documents 1, 3, 4, and 5. Then each document gets analyzed individually. Summarize the document. Document 1 is an article debating whether imperialism is worth it. Austin clearly points out several benefits to both India and Britain. Explain how it supports your thesis. Britain gains garden spots to grow materials, and in return, India gets industrial benefits from Britain and more exposure to education and progressive reforms. Whoops, there's a random quote spot in there. And then you want to analyze the point of view if you can. O.P. Austin is a British writer and does not mention any problems created by imperialism. He seems to take a superior tone, referring to the Indians as these people and assuming that they would not be able to do these things alone. Repeat this with each group and for each document within your group, and I'll show you what a finished paragraph might look like. So the rest of these documents. Here's my sample paragraph. It's long, but it goes after all the documents in the group. So here's all the documents in the group. Document 1, 2, 3, and 4. Actually, documents 1, 4, 5, and 3. You don't have to do them in any order as long as you talk about them. Each one of these talks about them, as well as mentioning point of view here and point of view here. So I've tried to attack point of view on both of these things. It makes sense. It seems to flow pretty nicely.